now that you have found producers, consumers, and decomposers near where you live, let's try to visualize these organisms and their relationships in what we call a food web. You may have heard of a food web before, or maybe a food chain. A food chain is a series of events in which one organism consumes another and obtains its energy. So this is an example of a food chain here in Crystal Cove. As you can see, it is in a sequential order, and there are lines connecting each of our organisms. That represents their relationship and who is eating who. So we can see how energy is passed on from one organism to the next in this food chain. So first we have the sun. Following that, we have a plant that uses the sun to create its energy. The plant uses the energy it created to grow and develop, and then this plant is eaten by an herbivore in the next part of the food chain. So if we follow the line in the next part of the chain, we have a desert cottontail rabbit which eats plants to get their energy. Then again, the energy is passed down. So we move to the next part of the chain and we have a carnivore. Here we have a red-shouldered hawk, and it will eat the previous organism. So the hawk eats the rabbit to get its energy. But we have more than just one line of organisms in any ecosystem. We have lots of organisms and they interact in lots of different ways. So that's how we get a food web. A food chain outlines one set of relationships describing who eats who. A food web is all of the different food chains in an ecosystem. So let's try making a food web out of all of the organisms that you found near where you live. I'll demonstrate with a few organisms found in Crystal Cove, then you can go ahead and make your own from the organisms on your own list. All right, let's begin constructing a food web. So open up a brand new blank page in your science journal and have something to write with. Make sure you also have your list of producers, herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, and decomposers ready to go. So start by opening up your blank page, or you can do two side by side if you want to have a little more room. And you're going to start adding in the organisms from your list. So I'll start by adding on a sparrow. If you want, you can also draw a picture of the organism. Underneath it, you're going to write how it gets its energy. So in this case, the sparrow is an omnivore. They eat plants and animals. Continue then adding other things to your list. If you'd like, you can add a circle around each organism to help separate them out. Let's see, I also had an earthworm on the list. And that was a decomposer. I also had a coyote brush on my list, which is a producer. Continue this until your page is all full with all of the different organisms you have. And now we want to draw connections to show how energy flows. Now, energy flows is by showing who eats who. So my sparrow is an omnivore that actually might eat one of our earthworms, decomposer. So I might draw an arrow, because omnivores eat animals and plants, and an earthworm is an animal. And since they're an omnivore, they might also eat my producer. So I'll draw some energy from my producer going to my omnivore. So that's just a couple of connections, but if you have all of the organisms that you found, you want to draw all the connections that you can find between them for who eats who. And continue this process until you have a complete food web. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you all find and what the ecosystem in your area looks like.